Hello, and welcome to Inner Peace Counseling Services. For those of you all who don't know us, I'm Dr. Angela Hargrove.
I'm Sherry Green, one of the therapists here at Inner Peace Counseling.
And this is Tasha Ganthier, another therapist here at Inner Peace Counseling Services. And today we're going to be talking about what you put in determines what you get back. That is a continuation of our Inner Peace Manifesto to really introduce you guys into the process of how we became inner peace and the basic core values that as practitioners we practice, but also teach our clients.
Right. So if you go to our website, you will actually find a copy of our Inner Peace Manifesto. You won't find a poster yet, but you will find an ebook that will explain each of the tenets in the manifesto. And we're going to talk about one today. And as Tasha said, what you put in is what you get back, it determines what you get back. Mm-hmm. And that has a lot to do with all the things that we put inside of ourselves in all the different ways that we put it inside of ourselves and what that results in terms of how we act and behave and how we feel.
Yes, because what you want to remember is that we are physical, emotional, and spiritual people. We're not just physical people walking around today. We're actually, there's three parts to who we are, and we have to recognize that and feed all three. Because if one part of who we are is unbalanced, then everything else is going to be out of sorts as well. Right. So physically, we're going to touch on those physical things that we need. Angela's going to talk a little bit about physical because she's had some recent experiences with physical challenges that go into health and nutrition and things like that. And emotionally, Sherry's going to talk a little bit about the emotional processes that we go through that affect who we are and how it's important to pour into those areas of our lives to stay sane and stay supported. And then I'll talk today about the spirituality part, which is more of the energy part of who we are and what that means and how it should look and the processes that we do today versus what we should do in being able to really live a wholesome and well-balanced life.
So some of the things that we will always talk about across all dimensions of what we do will be about your physical health and being physically active, as well as your nutritional health, what you're putting in that's nutritional. Oftentimes we eat for taste and not for nutrition. And so in eating for taste, we forget that we're eating a lot of things that we shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
I like to bake, so it's nothing to go home and make some cookies. And, that's just constant sugar. And over the last few years, I've learned how to make cookies that I enjoy, that other people enjoy, that are lower in sugar, lower in some of the fats. Sometimes it doesn't have all the ingredients, all the other things, all the other cookies that I've made previously have. And so it's about changing up my diet in ways so that I can live longer. If we put a lot of sugar, fat, salt in our diet, then we get high blood pressure, we get diabetes, we get all kind of other physical ailments, obesity, because we are eating improper and we're eating for taste. It just tastes good. I want to keep eating it. It makes me feel better. We do that to soothe our emotions.
But let's talk about the research on that, Angela, because a big part of taste for us is going to be, unfortunately, we're starting out our children eating things that they shouldn't too early.
Correct.
So now we have a taste for something that we shouldn't have had a taste for over a period of time, even sugar. When people start talking about sweet, we don't realize we're really sweet today. Like the amount of sugar that we intake based on research is overwhelmingly higher than years
that's
before.
Part of the food industry.
Yeah.
I mean, over the last several decades, the food industry has optimized sugar, fat, and salt in our diet. So it's increased those things until we're getting just that optimal level that makes us keep coming back. Sugar makes us addicted. Salt enhances the taste, and fats smooth it out. So what do we want to do? We want to keep eating it.
And all of those things have been linked to things related to inflammation.
Yes.
Not just obesity, but inflammation. And inflammation damages all your joints. Inflammation can damage some of your major organs. And so that's a big deal right now. It's not only are we eating, we're becoming addicted to these things and in an emotional way, but physiologically, our bodies think it needs it. Our bodies begin to think we need the salt.
Yes.
We
need then it
more
creates
sugar.
more emotional problems, such as for me, iron is a big issue because I have low iron. So when I don't have enough iron in my diet, what happens? I feel depressed. Literally, I used to think that depression was my diagnosis, but it's not. It's literally I have low iron, It's not until a doctor said to me, you need to go on iron pills. I said, why? That's why you're depressed. You don't have enough iron in your system.
Right. So your energy is low and you feel depressed. You can't move and go around like you want to.
There's also been, Angela, I wonder if you looked up some research connected to dehydration and depression, that you're literally dehydrated. People would choose to drink sugary drinks, cocoa,
soda,
all these kind of different things, sweet tea, lemonade, and not water. And water is what really hydrates you. When I had a physician tell me that that one fact, I actually looked it up. There is research on dehydration and depression. I didn't buy it when he said it to me at first. I didn't. I was like, really? And so now I'm really like, I gotta have so much water every day. And you do feel more energetic if you start off with a glass of water instead of your cup of coffee, which I know you're gonna have anyway.
Yes.
Well, and it even goes with sugar in terms of mood. I mean, you're constantly using sugar to uplift your mood. You're going to crash.
You're going to have that sugar
and
crash.
You're going to keep crashing. So now you need more sugar to keep going, and you get in a vicious cycle. And all that leaves you feeling out of control with your own emotions in a lot of ways. Or the different things, too much caffeine. Now you're more anxious. You know, nicotine, you're smoking. Not only messing up your lungs and your heart, but now you also tend to get more anxiety. So all these things that we put in from a physical aspect, it impacts how we feel. And so if you're putting in a lot of bad foods, you're going to feel bad.
And it's important also to remember, I think Angela went through this recently, is to assess what your body is saying about the foods that you eat. I know for me, I don't eat a lot of takeout food because I grew up in a household where we had to cook. So when I do go out and eat a lot out of fast food, not necessarily a nice restaurant, the food is prepared differently, but in a fast food restaurant, I find my body responding to that food differently. I find myself having more of an acid reflux response to certain things, or finding myself feeling really irritable in my stomach because, again, those foods were not processed by me. So I don't know what's in it. My body is letting me know they're not processing this thing well. And we don't listen to our bodies when it comes to those things. And it's usually when we have an allergy response and have to go get allergy testing, or we have a weight response, or some significant changes in our bodies and illness that forces us to really start thinking about food. And that shouldn't be the time when we start thinking about our physical health.
And so also moving, if we are sitting, then we're not giving our bodies what it needs. We need to do things. We need to be physically active. So sure, you can go and do straight exercise, but it could just be something as simple as a walk, or go dancing, or take a dance class, or a tennis lesson, or something that just causes you to move more. And if you're moving more, you're going to burn more calories. Your body's moving, it's looser, it's going to feel better.
And it also is going to impact you emotionally, because there's all kinds of ways that you can move that will help your mind create its own sense of its own source of antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication. It's already in you. You just have to activate it by moving your body.
And what does the study say? The studies say that the people who have depression, that was one of the psychoeducational classes I had to do recently with children of a client of mine, because the kids didn't understand why mommy was so sick. So we had to do a psychoeducation session with these children so they could understand how things impact the brain. And if mommy's more active and you could get her outside to play with you and get her on walks, it increases her serotonin levels. And serotonin is a big factor in helping push away depression.
Absolutely. And that's already inside of you. I like the philosophy that much of what you need is already have. You just have to activate it and nourish it correctly. And diet and exercise impact you emotionally. So it's part of what you are feeding your mind and your brain. So in terms of your emotional healthiness. And I think people more readily attend actually to their physical health. And sometimes, you know, depending on your culture, you'll even attend to your spiritual health. But very often, emotional health is shunned. It's as if if that doesn't exist. This is either a spirit-based issue or a physical-based issue.
But I don't think we understand all those things that impact our emotional health.
That they are
connected. That's why it's not a part of most people's awareness.
And it is, because many of the things Angela's talking about to support your physical health, I want you to know will support your emotional health. Absolutely. And when Tasha starts talking about spiritual health, all that will impact your emotional health. And emotional health will impact your ability to go on walks. If you're not feeling motivated to go on walks, that means you're not feeding your emotional health. You're not recharging. You're not resting enough, right? You're not being still enough with yourself. You're not practicing some of your mindfulness, some of your stillness, some of your relaxation, right? So then you don't have the energy or motivation to go on a walk, to go riding, to think of a healthy menu to feed your family. If you're not emotionally stable, right? If you haven't fed into or fed or provided for your emotional well-being, then you're not thinking clearly enough, right? Or calmly enough to create a healthy menu, a healthy diet, right?
And that's support. And to talk a little bit about that, Sherry, what it means to, because I think as a conversation we've had is about a lot of people when you ask them, well, who supports you? That's the emotional part. We don't realize that it's so important to have a support system to support us emotionally. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So support system, when we're talking about what we put into ourselves, who do you surround yourself with?
Right.
Not just who physically, but when you are talking on the telephone, when you're watching different media type things, when you're watching TV, when you're on Facebook, what are you watching? What are you fueling your mind and your brain with? What's the last thing you think about when you go to sleep at night? That has a lot to do with what you fed your mind.
That's how you're supporting your emotional health.
So, but think about it. If you're on the phone and the friends you're talking to are constantly negative, then that's what you're feeding your mind. So you're getting nothing that helps you feel better, that helps you grow emotionally, it helps you feel good physically.
And if you're surrounding yourself with people that take and don't put anything back into you, right? And so caregivers tend to do that some. We surround ourselves with people because it feels good to us to give.
Yeah.
But if you're never surrounding yourself with people, or you're never in the company of people that fill you back up, you'll find that you're not being able to give very much good stuff.
Yes.
Or allowing people to give back. Because sometimes we keep people, we tell them no constantly, and then we don't allow them to give us back what we really need. We think we don't need it, but we do.
And that is emotional food, the social supports that you get, how you feed your brain. What are you doing in your evenings? Are you sitting down in front of your TV watching, what do you hate, Angela, those reality TV shows where the people are fighting and cussing each other out while you eat a tub of ice cream? Or are you taking a walk with your friends and talking about what's good in your life?
Or engaging with your family, having a conversation about how was the day?
Absolutely. Are you talking to people about what's good in our lives if you're in a relationship with someone? Are you talking to people of how can we make our lives that's already good even better? So I'm not just talking about just focusing on the positive. And very often I get nailed in sessions by my clients who will say, you just want me to look at the positive? Well, yes, I want you to pay equal attention to what's going well as what's going bad. It does not negate what's going bad in your life. That's not about mental wellness, because I don't want you to be in a sense of denial. What I want you to do is to be able to pay attention to what's going well so that it can fortify you to tolerate better when things are not going so well.
Right. So the balance of
what's
good and bad.
Absolutely.
Right. And so even thinking about what you might read or the music you're listening to, if this is all heavy music, cursing and calling people out their names, or only focused on
misogynism,
money and sexuality, then that's the kind of things you're focused on and thinking about, and that's how you're going to start to relate to people, and you're not even aware that that's what you're doing. And so it's important to change and put in other things that actually will help you put a positive return back out. If you bring in that positive stuff and music that makes you relax and feel good, then that's how you interact in the world.
And that goes clearly into the idea of spirituality. I think a lot of us, when I say the word spirituality, automatically go to church. That is just a composition of an idea of what we think spirituality is, because again, that's religion. What we're talking about is the self. What is spirit to me, and what does spirituality mean in terms of energy? Good energy feeds the soul. Good energy is, like Angela said, a beautiful song. I tell my clients all the time who have issues with crying, I cry all the time. You know why? Because it feeds my soul. It gives me good energy. I'll put on a nice little song. I think one of my favorites, Carrie Underwood, Jesus Take the Wheel. And if I'm having a bad day and I need to get my energy up, I will cry it out, move the tears away. And studies have shown that even in tears, there are hormones and particles that literally it's feeding you. It's the brain is doing something to help you heal. Right. It's creating natural painkillers.
Absolutely.
As we're healing through certain things. That is a spirituality we're talking about. It's doing those things that make sense to the whole body. Yes, church is one of them. You can go to church because that's fellowship. You're with people of common beliefs that help support you through your challenges. That is spirituality and good energy. But walking through the wilderness, walking down to the park, playing with some kids at the park and laughing and giggling, those are good. That's good energy.
Walking along the beach.
Walking along the beach, kissing your husband when you get home, being embraced by your mother. That is a spirituality that we're talking about. We don't think about those things as spirituality because that's not what we're taught. We're taught spirituality is just in four walls. But spirituality is all around us in the energy we receive in positive ways from positive people.
One of the best descriptions of spirituality I think I've heard was to be able to recognize the God in you, whatever that God is. So once you recognize that, would you treat the God in you, the biggest, most important thing about you? Would you treat it with disdain? Would you feed it junk food? Like if God showed up at your kitchen table, would you give him a Snickers bar? Really?
A Big Mac
and a bottle of bourbon? You give God a Snickers bar and a bottle of bourbon? Or would you feed him nourishing things? Would you feed him anger and hostility, or her anger and hostility? Whatever that divine light is in you, would you feed that? If that came and sat with you, would you only talk negativity, or would you speak words of kindness and words of peace and words of comfort to that entity? So that's the best definition of spirituality I've ever gotten, was that thing which is divine in you.
Divine, period. And the spiritual aspect is just make it as simple as possible. For example, I have a friend, whenever he travels for business, he says the things that feeds his soul is coming home and his kids jumping on him. Daddy's home, and running down the stairs and jumping on him and tussling him to the floor, and let's watch a movie and let's play. Let's do something together. That is what we're talking about. Because play, research has shown, is one of the things that we don't do well as adults, right? As kids, we master it and then we forget. We go into the workplace and all of a sudden, that's childish. I'm sorry, childish is good when it comes to play, of course. Now, when we're talking to real life situations, but when it comes to play, not behaviors,
argument. But when we're
in playfulness and laughter and joy, it's very healing.
How kids heal.
And that's a spirituality we want you guys to think about. And Angela talked about physical, and that they're all interconnected, because if you're playing, you're activating physical parts of your body. Right? And then also when it comes to support, like Sherry said, in an emotional sense, if I'm playing with my kids or someone that I love, what am I doing? I am also supporting myself emotionally and reminding myself of my value in this space that I'm in, this world that I'm in, this universe that I'm in. So I want you guys to think about that as you go on throughout the weeks, the months, and before the end of this year. If you find yourself feeling imbalanced physically, emotionally, or spiritually, we're here at Inner Peace Counseling Services. Our process is to help and to support and to educate. And one of the key things we do is to want to help folks really, really get to a place of holistically and organically looking at themselves and physically, emotionally, and spiritually identifying the things that make them who they are.
So thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.